feel like we need like elevator music, you
I
know?
know we should have gotten a playlist together.
I know, and just some like bumping some beats to get us hyped. I ate ice cream. I ate a couple spoons of ice cream and be like, all right, let's do this.
That's maybe we can like make a beat while we're waiting. I think we could be going live. We could be live right now.
We could be live right now. I mean, we did have tech again. We had tech rehearsals yesterday. I feel like I forgot everything.
Yep. That's how it goes. Well, if we are live, hello.
Hi.
Starting to trickle in. I'm not sure if we're saying hi to anyone yet. I think.
I know. I could just be saying hi to you, which is totally fine too.
Yeah. What's your favorite song right now?
My favorite song right now. I've been listening to "Take Me to Church" by Hauser a lot. I don't know why, but I've been very, very, very obsessed with The Weeknd and like listening
Oh my God,
to
me
his
too.
right. And like I think it's because like you know how like when you drive on the freeway in Oakland, they have that huge poster of him being like 2022 weekend tour. So
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely that's the guy. He's also Ethiopian, which I'm just like gotta support my people, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of good music too. It's all good. Okay, we're live. And
Awesome.
we're talking about The Weeknd right now.
Yes.
The artist, not the actual weekend, which we're still a few days away from. So, hello everyone. Welcome. Hi from the Bay Area. That is my Slack. I'm going to turn it off. I'm so sorry. Thank you all for joining us on our second episode of season 2 We a Bay Area YouTube live Q&A. My name is Paige Johnstone and I use she, her pronouns. Currently, I am a production department manager at Pixar. So the hope through this series is to provide some education, resources, and a little entertainment to the amazing underrepresented gender identity communities, including women, non-binary, and transgender individuals who want to pursue and thrive in the animation industry. So please subscribe to this channel and put down your questions in the chat you want us to talk about, and we'll do our best to get to everything at the end. Today, I am chatting with Searit Huluf, who I am super excited to be talking to. She is an awesome production person, director, and all-around great woman. So, hello, Searit.
Hi, I'm Searit Huluf, just like Paige said. But yeah, I'm excited to be here too. I like that we're also just like both talking to each other because I feel like that's very rare to do because we're also friends, but like it's nice to just talk in like this kind of setting too.
Yeah, it's like no one else is even here, but everyone's here. Hello.
I know. I'm not even gonna check the YouTube page to see how many viewers there is. I'm just gonna assume there's only one person here. And
Yeah, just me and you doing our thing, having a casual chat. All right, so why don't we start off with you telling everyone a little bit about your journey to Pixar?
Yeah, like I said before, my name is Searit Huluf, and I started Pixar in 2015. I started as a production intern on Incredibles 2, and I kind of just started as an intern and stayed on the show till the end of production, which is pretty cool. So I've been on that show for like 2.5 years. And then I did the Spark shorts, and now I'm on Turning Red. So right now I'm like hitting 5 years at Pixar, which is interesting because like I've only done like 2 shows in 5 years basically, and like the shorts, but like that's like yeah, it's a long time. It's like half a decade.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm originally from LA, so I was like born and raised in LA my whole life. When I was in high school, I did a lot of STEM, so I did a lot of math and science, and I was part of like this like USC Upward Bound computer coding competition, like kind of thing I did every summer. So like I was super into coding, and then one summer I noticed that the coding competition also had a film competition, and I decided to just at the whim with all the seniors make a film with them, and it was like a terrible good experience, as in like we did it, but it was like a terrible film and we didn't even make it to like any level. Like we submitted it and we heard nothing from them. But it was like at that moment where I was just like, oh, now I want to do film, and kind of just like flip the switch from like math to science to like entertainment. And then I went to UCLA and I went to study in UCLA Film School for screenwriting and stop motion. And that's how I kind of got into Pixar.
That's amazing. That's such a cool journey and a cool way to like find your thing, you know. Were
Yeah.
you at Pixar, or were you anywhere before Pixar? Was Pixar like your first assignment, kind of like getting into the industry?
To be completely honest, no, because I didn't feel like I was legit enough for Pixar. I honestly was just, yeah, it was weird because like I was interning a lot when I was in college, and I was on set a lot too. So that was another thing too, where like even though I was studying stop motion, my school, UCLA Film School, was really, really known for their live action department, and they didn't even have like an animation program for undergrad. They only had it for the master's program. So I was kind of like one, like always the only undergrad in the master courses, just because they didn't have enough fundings to have like a separate course for undergrad. So I was always juggling like live action and stop motion. And a lot of my college experience was live action, but all my internship experience was actually animation. So like I'll do like helping out grad shoots during the weekend, but then like, you know, I had like Cartoon Network. I was like the development intern and I was there like 3 times a week. And I also did like DreamWorks and I was like a production intern there. So I always like was juggling both kind of like mediums in a sense. And Pixar was just like a, you know, when they tell you like making a LinkedIn account, you know, when you're in college, that shit actually works.
It does.
Yeah, like who would have thought? So I actually, for some strange reason, it was out of the blue. Pixar came to UCLA and like they were like, hey, they're gonna come and do a talk. The recruiters are here, and everyone was just like, holy shit! So we all went to like the theater to like hear them talk. And I remember talking to Kim Diaz there and being like, oh, I'm really into the program. Like, where can I learn more? But I asked them like, you know, the basic kind of like, oh, college questions. And then like since then I was just like, oh, well, like I think it's because like if they didn't come to campus, I don't think I would have ever think about ever applying. I think I just like saw them, and I think because I saw them and I felt like they were in my grasp, like in my reach, I felt like, oh, maybe there's an opportunity.
Yeah.
But I never felt like I was legit enough. And it wasn't until I did all these internship programs that like I finally felt like, oh, maybe I could. So I was studying abroad in London, and I was like, I did that weird thing where like I studied abroad in my senior year because, and usually you do that your freshman or sophomore year, but I ended up going to a lot of like agencies like CAA and UTA talks like when I was in college, because I was like, you know, it's going to be a senior and I need to figure out like job opportunities and stuff. So I went to all these networking events and stuff, and all these agents or managers or like people who work in industry, whenever someone asked them like, what is the one thing you regretted that you didn't do in college, they always said studying abroad or taking like a gap year after graduating. And I'm like such a workaholic, and I think it's because my mom is, you know, like I come from like an immigrant family, like a single parent household, so like I've always just like always been working all the time. I never had like fun or took a break. So it wasn't until I went to that talk that I decided to like study it abroad, but which also kind of freaked me out because I was studying abroad but coming back to America with like nothing lined up basically. And that's when I kind of like took the step to just like go on LinkedIn, message Kim Diaz and be like, hey, I'm interested in like the product management internship. Like, do you know when it's gonna come up? And like she emailed back literally like in a week or something. And then she's like, yeah, here's my email, send me your resume. And I'm like, oh, okay. And like did it and then heard nothing for like what, like maybe like 7 to 6 months. And then I finally got reached out, and then did the call. I or did the interview. I drove down from LA to the Bay Area. It was like for one day, and then I drove back up. And then after like 3 weeks, they come back to me saying like, "Oh, you got the internship." So, yeah, definitely did not think about it. Huh?
It's all history from there.
Yeah, like still here.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's an amazing. Yeah, doing internships and like figuring out what you want is so helpful. And so, you know, you get to meet so many people. Like you said, you know, you met Kim Diaz, which is amazing. For those of you listening, Kim Diaz is in recruiting at Pixar. She's awesome. Look her up.
Love her. She loves to eat. I love to eat. We're both foodies. It's great. But yeah, I'm really grateful I actually did a lot of interning, because I think like that would be like my one advice for any college student, because you don't realize how much you learn about actual working and having like a 9 to 5 job until you actually like do it. And I'm very thankful that I think like my experience interning in LA really, you know, what me to shape. And like I messed up a lot too, which is like, you know, at the moment was like dreadful for me. But when I look back at it, I'm kind of really happy I did, because all of those internships I did, all those mistakes I did, like what me to shape, so that when I came to Pixar, I knew what I need to do, and I knew like what it meant to be a PA. And it really honestly helped me get that PA position.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And yes, I want to double down on that advice. Internships are so important. I did not do any internships,
That's
and I
wait,
always
how
wish
did
I did.
whoa.
Yeah, so I think it is every time I talk to someone who did do internships at, like during college, I want to reiterate how important that is if you have the opportunity to do it. But I want to get back to a little bit more of your journey and how you're now kind of and have been transitioning from production management to being a director, and what that's been like for you, because anyone who knows about production knows that producing and directing are like two completely different things. So I'm curious to learn how and when you decided like I want to get behind the director's lens. Is that the right way to say that? You get what
Yeah.
I mean.
Director's path, or yeah, something like that. I think it was because like I remember like in college I did a lot of directing, and like going to the film school really helped with that, because I was basically making a film every quarter with my film school. But I was also part of a film fraternity as well. And we were also making a film every quarter too. So I was always constantly like on set and making things. And I think right when I was working at Pixar full time, I think I kind of like missed that aspect where I was like constantly making things on set. And the thing about animation is just like you are on set, but it's not in the same capacity as like live action. And I think I still love both mediums, but I think I missed that a lot. So it honestly started as like just curiosity. A lot of it was like going to film festivals too. So I knew I wanted to be on set. I was also writing too as a PA when I was at Pixar. I was just constantly writing because my background was screenwriting and stop motion, but I knew that screenwriting wasn't as fulfilling as it was before. I think I'll like finish something and I'll be like, okay, now what? And like, I was like trying to apply to all these writers fellowships and like writing these TV specs and stuff, and I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. But I knew that I didn't want to stop. And I think that's when the realization came to me where it's just like, oh, like I feel like I can't just write a script and just like call that complete. Like I need to see it finished, like complete, like actually shot in post-production and like, sound and everything and like on the actual screen. So what I did was I spent a lot of time like volunteering at film festivals around the Bay Area, which if you didn't know, at least once a month there's a film festival happening in the Bay Area. Just like so many like yeah, like seriously, there's so many film festivals in the Bay Area, and a lot of them, there's a film festivals about oceans, about like environment. There's like film festivals about animation, like Glass Animation Film Festival. So I did a lot of that. Like I volunteered to a lot of film festivals because I knew that was like a way for me to kind of connect with like the indie space within the Bay Area. Because I knew a lot of people in LA, and I knew like people who are doing on set work in LA, but I didn't have any connections here in the Bay Area. So I knew I kind of had to like start from ground zero and kind of work my way up and just like meeting people who are working on live action stuff. And then when I slowly started to meet more people, I also was kind of, I think I was also kind of realizing that I kind of need to like push myself like even more. So even though I was meeting people, I don't think I was telling people what I wanted to do. I think I was just like, oh, I just love film. Oh
Mhm.
yeah, I work at Pixar. I love film. But I
Yeah.
wasn't really like, I think I was kind of like hiding what I actually wanted to do because I was scared of that failure. And it wasn't until like I actually like, had the balls to actually make a film, which was like something really hard for me to finally come into like fruition, because it was honestly just really scary, because it was like the last time I made a film was in college, and like I had all my college friends with me and it was like fun. But
Yeah.
this time it's just like I had to find random people and like tell them like, hey, by the way, I want to direct and I'm gonna make this film. Do you want to help? And I'll help you too. Pat your back, pat my back. And it was just like very like, yeah, it was just like hard.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yes. So when I finally made like my short film, and like Pixar has this great thing called the co-op program, which is kind of like they kind of give you the resources to help you make like short films outside of your work hours. And I just thought that it was a stupid opportunity not to take, especially since talking to my LA friends, they talk about, oh yeah, I'm using my savings account to make my film. I'm like, oh yeah, I have to wait for my next paycheck to pay like, the insurance for my equipment. And I'm like, holy shit, like this is so, I am so lucky to have the resources within Pixar to help me make a short film. Like it's really dumb for me to not do this.
Right.
Um, so I started off with gamers and then making that short film, and then slowly kind of just like opening myself up to just like different kinds of mediums within live action, like genres I should say. So I did a narrative, I also did like a talk show, and then I also did like 2 documentaries, and now I'm kind of doing a live action. So it's like the more I do it, the more comfortable I am with like failing or showing my work. That was like another thing too, where it's just like I was very, very afraid to show anyone anything I made that said my name on it, except for Pixar films, because it's Pixar,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that is amazing. And it's so, I feel like it's so important for everyone to hear, like, to take that leap. If you want to do something, if you are scared to do it, just like try to figure out a way to do it, because in film, I feel like the best teacher is just getting in there and doing what you can, like you're saying, volunteering and just asking how you can help people is great. How do you feel like do you feel like being in production management has steered you in one way or another in your directing? Like, has it helped? Has it not helped? Can you see things a different way as a director because you're in production management?
I love production management because it is its own creative kind of wheelhouse that I feel like a lot of people don't realize. Like you don't understand how like excited like product management people could be with like Excel sheets and like really like map that thing out and like put all the widgets and stuff to make it like come through like so nice and clean. And like there's something about production management that's very creative, but I think like what production management taught me mostly is how to get shit done when shit is hard, basically.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot of skills, I think, at Pixar about just like what it means to set expectations. And I think like there's like a side kind of tying to like leadership skills too, because there's a lot of leadership skills that you need to have when you're a director. And I think like in product management, there's some leadership skills that I learned there that helped me with like directing. And like one that was like voicing my opinion, or like speaking up for myself at certain points. Cause I think like even when I think about like when I was first directing, I remember being like, I was like weirdly always begging in a weird way, in the sense of just like, oh, can you please do this? Or I feel like I was always hindering someone. Be like, hey, I'm making this short film. I was wondering if you're down, if it's cool. And I think like in prod management, like I just think about the times when like, this shot is due like end of day, and how I had to go in boss mode and talk to artists and be like, look, like I need you to really honestly just like, this needs to be done now. This is the deadline, blah, blah, stuff. And that kind of like teaching really helped me also like as a director be very clear and communicative in what I want. And going back to like getting shit done, like honestly, like making independent films it's so hard. It's so hard. It's so expensive. And it's also just like very draining, especially if you already have a full-time job. And I think production management taught me to learn how to multitask and like basically balance workloads when, especially when things get busy. So even now, like I'm still working on a show, but I'm also just like in pre-production for my film and planning to do casting and all these things. And like I'm able to like balance this stuff out because of like learning to do that in production management.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit more about that too. Like you do have a day job and you are balancing all this outside work. So what are the ways that you manage to do both? I mean, like I know you've talked a little bit about that skill set of production management, like because we're always balancing so many things at once. But balancing working on a whole nother film while you're already like doing 8 to 7 p.m. days is hard. Like where do you find the time, and how do you take care of your mental health while you're doing that?
Again, I have to preface I am a workaholic, but I am changing because I do realize that like I think like even though I'm so passionate making like all these side projects and also like trying to keep my full-time job, it does become like a mental draining thing where like I used to have problems of like not going to bed because I would feel guilty because I haven't done enough, and I'll be like staying up all night listing all the things I didn't do and like not getting full night's sleep. And I think what really helped me was just like 3 things of just like learning how to prioritize, learning how to delegate, and also just, and that ties into like learning how to ask for help. Because I think I was like I said in the beginning, I was very much just like in my own world doing everything myself, and I didn't feel comfortable reaching out for people because I had this weird thing of just like, oh, I haven't made any films, I haven't done anything, like no one wants to work with me. But now like after making a couple more films and like also just like again building that network because of meeting people at film festivals or just like going to like indie filmmaker events around the Bay Area, like I'm more comfortable reaching out to people, even people I didn't know, and asking like, hey, do you want to help? And if they are, I'm like, cool, I need help with X, Y, and Z. Are you down to do that? If not, totally fine. Like, let's just talk about it. So like, even now I still feel like it's still hard to like balance it, but I learned to like acknowledge when that happens, like when, when like you get so stressed at work that you're just like your brain is fried. Like when I get to that point, I have to honestly tell myself like, okay, I need to like stop because I'm not going to be productive.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And that is like, I commend you for getting to that point where you are protecting your sanity, because it is so hard to get to that point, especially like when you feel like you have a lot to prove and you feel like like you don't know if you're good enough or whatever. Like I cannot tell you how long it took me to feel comfortable saying that I wanted to be a producer, or to feel comfortable saying that I was a producer. And it's like it was that constant, just like, I gotta keep going, I gotta keep doing this and this and this and this. And then I finally got to a point where I was like, I think I need a vacation. I think that's what would really help me in my career.
Yeah.
So,
I honestly, it'll also help you too, because I think it'll also like put you not in like I think, oh shit, my microphone turned off. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. My beats were just like, and we're dead. But yeah, I think it's also just like when you do take that vacation and break, I think you do have that moment of, I always have that moment of like, well, that was pretty crazy that I tried to drink like 2 cans of Monsters to do two full night all-nighters in a row just to finish this one thing. Like that was really dumb, but you don't realize it when you're like in the moment,
Yeah, totally. And I feel like and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like directors in particular do have that thing about them of like, oh, I mean, I could just like keep doing this. And like you said, asking for help is so important. It's so good to learn how to delegate and to like, to accept help, because it takes a lot of people to make films, and it is, someone making your vision come true. So yeah, never be afraid to ask for help. I feel like, lots of people, want to help and work together. And so I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about a little bit more about your live action experience. And the kind of the differences between making something live action versus making something animation.
Ooh, yeah, there's a lot there. Yeah, it's still something that I'm like, someone asked me yesterday, like, oh, which one do you like more? You know, like that. And I was just like, I can't pick because they're both the same, but they're also both different. And that's why I like it. And I think for me, like live action, it's like, you know, you're physically there on set, like 12 to 14-hour days, which sounds like when people hear that, they're just like, oh my God, this sounds like hell. But it actually isn't. It's actually really a lot of fun.
Sounds horrible.
There you go. There you go. So workaholic, remember. But yeah, it's just like you're on set for 12 to 14 hours on your feet. And like, you know, depending on the location you are, it could be night shoots. It could be like, you could be like in the fucking desert, or you could be like, you know, in the snow, and like, which I have done. I have filmed the short film in the snow before it. Oh my God, it was crazy. But hey, it was like a fun experience. But animation, like it's interesting because like I call it like my desk job, because like that's like one of the main completely different things about it with live action, where it's just like I'm not really like on my feet. I'm not really like up 12 to 14 hours a day. It is like kind of like a, you know, like you said, like an 8 to 7 job. But it's just like a lot more like, you know, collaborative in the sense of like you're literally building everything from scratch. And like that, and like how much time it takes does put like a lot of like, I don't know, like when I think of like when I make my friends' short films, I'm like on set 3 days and boom, I have a credit as like a first AD for a short film I did for 3 days. But like at, you know, working on Pixar animation films, like it took me 2.5 years to get a credit, because like I was working on that show, because that show took like, you know, 4 or 5 years to make. Yeah, which, and then like that's another thing too, where like I think like my mom still doesn't know what I do at Pixar. Yeah, like she literally doesn't understand what I do. And then with like live action, I think there's something about, I don't know, I'm from LA, so I think like she has, you know, I'm assuming she has seen like on a bus or something like a set, you know, like filming industry. So I feel like she has somewhat of idea of like what it is in live action, but like in animation, I think it's very just like, it's like feels more mysterious in that sense. But like I think the main difference is that like, you know, the timing of things, of like how long you're on set. In animation, you're building things from scratch, versus in live action, you are building things, like there are set builders and stuff, but it's just different because you're doing it in a CG space in animation. Or 2D space, depending on medium.
Yeah, definitely. So with your live action experience, I know you've done a bit live action, and obviously the last year was really different in terms of being able to do everything live action. Like we in animation have not really slowed down, because like you said, everything is on your computer. You can do kind of everything from there. So I know you're also, is it a certification now for COVID safety? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I took that course last year. Yeah, and it's called a COVID compliance officer role, which is kind of like a new like role or department head role for like films. And it was basically like, I think there was like these 2 producers who were kind of just teaching people like with COVID, like what are like the new set protocols, because like Hollywood was down for a while and they were slowly trying to like start up again, but they were even kind of confused with like how to do that safely. And like honestly, what kind of happened, it was just like I was just not invited to help friends make a film, which was kind of weird, because kind of was like that's kind of like the opposite of what you usually do. Like whenever my friends making a film, I'm always being called to text me like, hey, yo, like, are you free like 6 to 6 on Saturday to like help us? I'm like, yeah, sure. And like, now when I meet up with friends and then they're talking about their projects, I'm like, this is so cool. Also, I am down to come, like, let me know if you need help. And they're like, actually, like, we can't, we need like a skeleton crew. And like, I kind of just like get pushed off. So it's weird. It's like, I've barely been on set like the past year and a half. And I think when I took that COVID compliance officer like kind of like course, it really opened my eyes on like what I guess like the next couple of years of filmmaking would look like. Granted, right now with the vaccines rolled out, like I think it helps a lot now, but like right now it's just like sad because like everyone is working with like a skeleton crew, which is kind of like, you know, removing a lot of rules for certain people who've been in the industry for like, you know, for a long time. And as you know, for animation, it's just like we're all just working from home. So there isn't a lot of like I don't know, it's just like we're just not in the studio, but we're still working, we're still meeting via Zoom. But yeah, that's like one of the main things I noticed where it's just like I'm literally just not invited in set anymore because there's only a certain amount of people who are allowed on set.
Yeah. So what is it like when you have been on set? Like what is that experience been like?
Yeah, like I kind of did a lot of like first AD roles for some of my friends, and like the role, like the first AD, like right before a film set, before you start shooting, it's like you're kind of like setting up the tone of the shoot. So you kind of like gather everyone, you like explain like these are the scenes that we're doing, these are the shots, this is when we're taking a lunch break, and then you always do this thing of just like also like the nearest hospital on our site is blah 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 this day, the first aid kit is here, because you have to say that so that they're aware of it. But now like first ADs are just like social distance. This is a compliance officer who will literally watch everyone and make sure they're 6 feet away, wear a mask, sometimes double mask is preferred, and like wearing hand gloves. But it's also just like sad because like you're not like able to kind of like, I don't know, it's like, you know, you have like a monitor to kind of just like where like people on set could like watch what we're filming, and like the way it is like everyone's like huddled in to watch this like screen to see what the takes and stuff, and like you can't do that anymore. You can't huddle around together. It's kind of just like everyone needs to be separated. So yeah.
Yeah, that must be so hard. Like I bet that's like it's harder to learn that way too, like especially for newer people that are wanting to see what's going on. It's like,
or they're probably just not able to do it, because I know a lot of people right now who are only inviting friends that they know. And this is also like the indie side of people who are just like making films like with no budget or like with the smallest budget. I wouldn't like, I feel like in the professional or studio setting, there's probably like different protocols. But yeah, like I do think about the people who, you know what I was thinking about? I was honestly thinking about the UCLA film class who are on right now, and how much like I feel so sorry for them because they're not shooting their thesis film, you know, and like not having that experience to like, because usually they use the thesis film is what they use to kind of help them like, you know, get to grad school or like help them get jobs, and now they can't do that and they're kind of stuck at home, and it's just yeah,
that's super rough. Yeah, this last year has not been super kind to people. Hopefully we're headed in a better direction.
Yeah,
and things will improve soon. So as a director now, and also still being in production management, I want to hear like what are the important topics to you? Like what do you want to make? What is the content you want to make? And how do you see the industry changing? You know, like we went through a lot in the last year, not only with COVID, obviously George Floyd's murder, you know, reverberated throughout the entire world. And I feel like a lot of places are starting to really recognize diversity and inclusion in a different way. So as a director and as a leader, what is important to you? Are you thinking about that stuff? What types of projects are you choosing to be a part of?
Yeah, that's actually a question I had for you too. Like how you decided to choose your projects. Because I feel like I lean into two things, like two ideas or thoughts whenever I like work on something, is either like, oh my God, the idea is so good that I have to just do it.
Yeah.
And the second one is like relationships, where it's just like, oh man, like this guy, like he's like my homie, like I want to support him, help him his career, help me with this, and like I want to just do whatever this guy is doing. So whenever I think of like things that I want to do, like I always think of just like, I don't know, I want my films to also kind of be like a timestamp of like myself, and like what I thought or like view the world during this like month or year, whatever. And I remember like when I made Gamers, like a lot, like that film was about like two female gamers, but I remember that year I felt a lot of imposter syndrome because I was making my first film out of college and I was having a lot of fear and like didn't want to talk about it with a lot of people, even though I really wanted to do it. And I think about like the documentaries I made and how like, you know, when I made the Black History Month doc, I really was just like wanting to hear other people's experiences of what it means to be Black, because I feel like I have, like, even though I know I'm African American, I feel like I have a very, like, I feel like everyone's like experience is just so different that like, but at times I feel like they're all clumped together as this one idea or thought or stereotyped. And that's partially for me too, someone who's just like, you know, like I'm African American because like, you know, like my mom and dad are both African and they actually came from Ethiopia, and like I have family there and I've met them. So I have like a connection to my roots versus like I know like a lot of my friends who are Black who don't have that. I would be like, where's your family from? And they're like, slavery. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. No, seriously, one of my friends, I was like, oh, cool last name. And she's like, oh, that was my slave master's name. He was French. And I was like, oh, interesting. And then making the 19th Amendment doc, I just remember being like really anxious about the 2020 elections and really trying to figure out how I can motivate like our generation, because I felt like our generation was just not as eager to vote. I was like, how can I motivate other people to vote? And I was just thinking, like, I work at Pixar, we have a brand, we have so many millennials watching our films. Like, I feel like there's something we can do to motivate them to go watch a film. I mean, to go vote. Because like, I just feel like we could like at least maybe like change perspectives from certain groups of people like around the world, or United States, I should say. And even now, like I'm making a short film about chefs and like what it's like to be a immigrant chef in America. And I'm also just like a crazy foodie. So for me, it's just like, oh, like these are like my passion projects, but there's also something about like, I've been really, ever since I went back to Ethiopia and like, you know, met with my family and learned a lot about like my mom's journey to America and like how much she struggled to be an immigrant. Like that idea really stuck in my head and I knew I wanted to do something with it and like kind of just combine my two loves of my mom and also like food.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how do you decide, because you produce a lot of projects and like like a lot. Like I know I do a lot. You do a lot. I know, but you do a lot too. Like you're like, you do a lot.
I'm just very I mean, I didn't have internships, so I'm doing all my internships right now. That's how I think of it. I choose things based on story, the diversity of the characters, the director. It's a few things. I really like, I love a good story. I love a good story arc. And so that's really important to me. If I connect, like I have to connect to it, right? It has to be something that like I feel. And then I also just like want to work with good people. I don't want to work with assholes. I just don't. There are too many good people out there that I think it's enjoyable to work with. So I feel like I'm pretty picky about that.
Yes, you should.
Yeah. And yeah, like diversity is incredibly important to me. You know, you and I are both, you know, Black and African American women in animation and in entertainment in general. And you look at the numbers and there's not a lot of us. So anything I can do to bring more diversity into a project or talk about it more is important to me. So those are the things that I prioritize personally. But who knows? Like you're saying, it's like a kind of, you know, kind of timestamp of where you're at in the moment and like how you've grown. So yeah, that's how Oh, I do. I don't know if you can hear. There's music in the background. My neighbors.
There is.
And I'm sorry if
I'm
anyone
like
can hear
low
it.
key waiting for this dog downstairs to bark because I'm in Ohio right now, so I have like 2 dogs on the first floor, and they bark like at anyone that walks by the windows. I'm like really surprised that they're chill right now. So you're good.
Okay, great. We're doing great then. We're doing great. So you are a foodie. I follow your Instagram stories very closely.
As I do to yours.
Yeah, you're always either making something amazing or eating something amazing. Talk about your love of food. I want to know what's your favorite thing you're into right now.
I know. I love that we're having a women in animation talk, and we're talking about food. I think
It was always going to end up this way.
yes, especially with us. I mean, like
Yeah.
you spent like all of quarantine last year perfecting a chocolate chip cookie recipe, which I made and also agree that was good.
I did.
So we're very alike. Yeah, I've been really interested in like baking like cakes and like so I do this thing where like whenever it's my friends like my love language is food. So like for me it's just like whenever someone's like birthday or like someone's like feeling shitty or something, I always like bake them something. So right now I've been doing donuts and cakes, but majority of quarantine last year I was making homemade ice cream, which was like so much fun and like just like pure bliss because it's like it's kind of like a 2-day procedure. Like one, you have to like soak the milk and stuff, and the next day is when you like turn it and like put it in the freezer so it could like warm up a bit. But I kind of just like food too and how much like it connects people and like cultures too. I like dabbled in a little bit of like food writing like a couple years ago. So I would like go to restaurants like write food reviews, but I was doing it mostly for like immigrant run restaurants or like or what do you call the people who like don't have like a brick and mortar kind of places. Mainly because I want them to just be known and like found out by people. But yeah, a lot of my food stems for like my love of friends.
That's awesome. I love that. I didn't know that, and I love that. That's amazing. So now you're making this. Can you talk a little bit more about? You said you're making a documentary about.
No, it's a live action narrative short. So
live action narrative short. Okay.
I don't know why I had to say all of that. It's a short film.
Well, cool. That's awesome. Can you tell us anything more about it?
Yeah, I think it has to do with food and like also just like an immigrant chef. But it's also just like talk about workaholic lifestyle. I don't know if you know much about chef's lifestyle, work style, but it's pretty intense where they're working like again 12 to 14-hour days on their feet all the time. And like that kind of like when I like listen to chefs talk about that and like read about it, it really reminds me of like just myself and how like I will work like those long hours and like when I try to go to bed, it's just like I can't sleep and like I have like intense insomnia. But I don't know if you have this happen too, but when you lose like a lot of sleep and you just haven't sleep enough, you just kind of start making shit up in your head. And you're starting to like, kind of like losing it a little bit because you're so deliriously tired. So I kind of like wrote the story about the chef who kind of lose grip in reality because of how much sleep deprivation she has. And like, I don't know, I always like, whenever I write a story, like I know there's always like a little bit of me in it. And all of last year, I feel like I was having such a hard time sleeping and I like knew I wanted to like write some like a character who had that problem too. And I kind of just like marries perfectly with like this short film.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Yeah. Yeah. And yes, I have experienced that.
Right? Isn't it
even
like
when I'm not sleep deprived, I'm always making stuff. It's fine. I relate to your character. That's super cool. So is the plan with that, maybe you don't have to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is the plan to go to festivals with that? Like, have you thought about it yet?
Actually, it's the opposite. So I'm calling this like my foreign film fantasy film, where like I feel like no film festival will probably want it because it might be too weird and abstract. And that's mainly because I learned so much about the film festival world from volunteering into it, but also like applying gamers to film festivals and kind of just learning like, like kind of like the unsaid rules of the world of it. So I do want to apply to to a couple of film festivals, but I think I care more about like crafting my voice and figuring out what kind of stories I want to tell.
Sure.
And I don't want to put myself in a box too. So like I really like that I'm like making films. I'm making this film that's like outside of my usual comfort zone. Because I do want to challenge myself every time I make a film. Do you feel like that too? Like, do you ever feel like you need to like set up a new bar like for every project you work on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, a lot of what I put into a project has to do with my connection with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why like I try really hard to like get onto projects that I really believe in or really connect to, or people that I really connect to, because that is what helps me like be motivated to learn more and to do more. And like every single position I've been in, I'm always like looking at things and trying to figure out like how to do things differently and how I can like take a next step in that area. So yeah, I'm always like very much looking to push myself, which makes me a little bit of a workaholic too.
That's great. This is why we're friends, man. Like, seriously. Like, this is seriously why we're friends. We're on the same level of like, it's unhealthy, like probably will like, mess with us down the line in the future, but we're cool with that,
It's fine. We'll do some yoga and then we'll be like perfectly square.
Well, can you, because I know you came here last and you talked about Canvas, which is the film you made with Frank. And I wanted to ask, like, I guess like an update report on the film, because I feel like a lot of things changed since you did that last talk, mainly because like you have to finish out the film during quarantine too. So
yeah. I can't actually remember where we were at with the film when I did the talk. But the big updates are it is now streaming on Netflix. Log on, watch it if you haven't yet.
That's a big deal to have like a film where you're like, you dedicated your time, like a lot of your time to do like, like, did you ever think it was going to end up on that platform?
No. Yes. No, I don't know. It was very up in the air. I'll say that. And so it was amazing. It's amazing that that's how it ended up. And that it's gotten so much recognition. We've, heard from people around the world, like telling us how it touched them. And that's like, that for me is just, that's like why you do it, to connect with people. And so it's been really amazing. We've won a couple of awards, so that's cool.
Miss NAACP award winner right here.
Hang on. Let me do a hair flip. That was too much.
I was No, you deserve it. I was so excited when I saw you. Like when I saw y'all win, I was like, it made me really proud, because it's like, again, like this is like, I feel like people don't know this, but it's just like, this was not a film you made through the studio system. Like literally, you guys are making this like outside of work hours, independently, asking a lot of people, like, using their own free time to make this film. And I think like that's such a great recognition that like it got, that award.
Yeah. No, it like literally meant everything especially to be recognized by the NAACP. Like I don't have the words to say how much that meant. So exciting. It's all good. So we are, with that, just about at our time. It's been so nice talking. catching up. I'm patiently waiting for a Paige Saudi collab
I know, me too.
to come to fruition one day.
Honestly, like, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that we haven't. But
I know.
shame on us, to be honest.
This is true. This is true. Yeah. We need to get it together.
I know.
So, yeah, so that's our time for our portion, but we want to answer a couple of your questions. So I'll transition to that now. So question number one is what?
And this is Q&A question, right? Is that
the Q&A question?
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, this is from the audience.
All right. Oh my God, there's an audience. Holy
There's
shit.
an audience. I mean, it's just me. It's just me.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
What is your favorite part of working as a director, and what is the hardest part?
I think my favorite part is the collaboration, to be honest. Like even right now, like I'm like working on casting and like in the lookbook, and like I think for me it's just like I was so used to always directing and being in my own little bubble. I feel like I have to do everything, but like I feel like for the film I'm gonna make next, like I'm really like looking so forward to these collaborations, and like there's a lot of people who I've like reached out to help me, where it's just like, oh, I worked with them before, or like I helped them on their projects. So it's just like it doesn't even feel uncomfortable. Like and that's what I'm really excited about. I think like the more I make films, the more people I meet who also love making films, and like I want to meet more people like that. I think the hardest thing for me is like getting things, making sure that what I want in my head translate clearly on the page, or like when I actually communicate it out. Because sometimes I feel like, oh, I have this idea, this is what I want to do and stuff. And like sometimes for me, it's like it takes me a minute to kind of really verbalize what I want. And that's something where like, I don't know, like it's hard for me as a director, especially again when it comes to like collaborating with people, because I'm so used to doing everything by myself. But yeah, I feel like those are the two things, hardest and easiest, or funnest.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Those are great answers. Okay, question number 2. How do you overcome imposter syndrome?
I don't know. I feel like I still always have imposter syndrome, but I think it comes out in different forms. I feel like I've gained a lot of confidence, but I'm still always scared, which I'm actually okay with now. But I feel like when I was first starting out, it was really, really hard. I think I was like, I don't know. It was just like, I felt like I was going to like, I felt like making a film was like an insult that I was giving to the world in a weird way. Like I felt like I was just like, how dare I do this? Like, how dare I make a bad product and put it out there in the world? And I know a lot of it is like me in my head again doing this, because like even people will be like, oh, I really liked your film. I'd be like, no, you don't. It's really shit. It's like not great at all. It's my first time. It's fine. Let's not even talk about it.
Yeah. I feel like you get that, like when you're doing it too, you get that thing where you're just like, is this even good? Like, what is this? Because you've seen it so many times, right?
Yeah. And the thing about animation is that in animation, you have like, we have our brain trust, and we have like cycles to retell the story and really help fine tune it. But like when I'm making these independent films, it's just like, this is the budget we literally only have this weekend, and like if we don't do this, then we're kind of fucked. We could do pickup shoots here and there, but I don't think it's just like there's not the amount of resources that I have. But imposter syndrome is something I still deal with. I just think like I'm more confident in like pushing through it while still having it. And that only is because I'm doing it more constantly, so I could feel more uncomfortable being uncomfortable, basically.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at it too, is like being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
All right, question 3. Do you find yourself needing to adjust your working style depending on which project you're directing?
I think yes or no. I think like when I was making documentary shorts, I think that was like a weird like talk about imposter syndrome. I had to like make a story without a script, basically, which is like kind of like a like I don't know. I shout out to like documentary filmmakers because I feel like that's so hard because you're kind of just like, you know, you're like talking to someone, or interviewing someone, or following someone, and you're hoping that along the way of like, you know, the 100 hours of footage you documented, you could craft a story from it.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that was like a directing thing that I had to like adjust and change, but it wasn't like, I don't know, I still felt like it was my film. Like when I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is something that I would do as a director. I just think like depending on the medium, I think I like change things here and there. But yeah, I think it depends on the medium, and I think I should stop saying medium, genre. I think it should be like, if I make it like I guess like a documentary versus like a narrative, I think my directing style shifts a bit. But yeah, I think it's still like kind of more, and I'm also just like fine tuning myself. Like I'm very serious about like every film I make, I have to have it also be like a challenge where like the next film I'm making, I told myself like, I want to like learn about permits. I want to also like get an actual location, you know, and not like shoot in my home. Like I want to get like, you know, like each department head, like really like it needs to be someone I personally like know, or someone I talk to who could really help me out in making this film instead of me just doing everything by myself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's amazing. That's super awesome. Yeah. What skills would you say you have helped you as a director, and what experiences do you feel helped cultivate that?
Ooh. Can you say the first part of the question again?
Yes. What skills would you say have helped you as a director?
Oh, storytelling. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know, like when I was making my first film, I felt like I was always, I feel like I always had to stick to what I was on the script. But like when I got on set, like I was able to kind of just like kind of go crazy and like not go crazy, but like, you know, kind of like, you know, change things up. And like, I guess like that skill is just like open-mindedness. Like I feel like I didn't want to just like stick so clearly to like the storyboards and things I do. Like I think like that was a skill that really like kind of upped itself when I was a director. And also leadership skills, because I'm very serious about like when you're a director, you're like honestly delegating. You're delegating all the fucking time. Like you're telling different departments or groups like, you know, you want this, you want that. And not even in a cocky way, but more of just like the way that this film is going to turn out good is only if I could communicate correctly what I want. Because I know in my head what the story is supposed to be, but I need to be able to like vocally say it out loud. And I think there's like a lot of leadership skills that like honestly really helped me on set, especially when it's just like things on the spot, you know, of like, because I feel like, again, like going back to production management, like production management really taught me how to problem solve on the spot, and like an intense pressure too, which is like, thank you project management for that. Because like it really helped me on set when I'm a director, when like, you know, I'm shooting something, but then suddenly someone's mowing the lawn, and like we can't shoot because of sound, or like there's a plane, and like me just being on my feet and being like, okay, cool, let's go talk to him more and give that guy $50 to like stop for a couple hours, you know, or like just thinking of like, you know, like don't let that one thing stop you, like just keep going.
Yeah, that flexibility and adaptability, and
yeah. Those words, yeah, there you go.
Those things make prod management.
Exactly.
Okay, so our last question, which apparently is for us both, is what is your favorite cookie recipe?
I have two. One is yours, obviously.
Obviously.
I also really like this cookie recipe. Okay, I forgot the name, but I read it online about like this cookie recipe that apparently costs like a stupid amount of money, and like some person paid for it, and they were so mad about it that they leaked the recipe online.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. It's from a department store.
Yeah.
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 Which store is it?
I forgot.
Marcus? No.
But
Nordstrom?
it's something Marcus. It's something, yeah. But actually, I made the cookie recipe and it was so good because it's like using like it's like half flour, half oat flour. And then you have to like use chocolate chips, but you also have to like shred the chocolate, like micro shred it, the chocolate. So this is like another level of like texture of chocolate in it, and it's fucking great.
Yeah. This recipe was sent to me before, and I have not made it, but yes,
It's very addicting. So
I bet. Sounds
what about
good.
you?
Bon Appetit has a good recipe. I cannot remember which recipe it is, but
I have so many
had some the other day. They were very good. And there's this place, this isn't a recipe, but this is like my favorite chocolate chip cookie. There's a place called Salty Sweet, and they deliver, I think nationwide, but they're based in San Francisco, and their cookies are like amazing. Like they're perfect for my taste personally. I don't believe you can finish a chocolate chip cookie without sea salt on it if you're not.
Oh yeah, me too.
On it. Like people don't do it. People don't do it, and I don't understand it. But so
they're crazy. They're crazy.
Yes,
not us.
Well, I think that is our time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for the second episode of this season's program. Please subscribe to this channel and We Are Bay Area's social media for the next episode. And have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I think we're still live, so we can like keep talking about cookies or the weekend or
the weekend. He just dropped a song with Ariana Grande.
I want